This is the PR Podcast, a show about how public relations helps you tell your story to the world. We talk with great PR practitioners who have the skills, creativity, and just plain savvy to get their clients noticed. Now here's your host, Jody Fisher.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the PR Podcast. I'm Jody Fisher. Thanks for joining us. Have you got yourself a PR podcast plug yet? We've been promoting this a little bit at the top of the show the last couple of months, and it's where we plug a passion project of the PR people who write in and let us know what this isn't your job. This isn't your 9 to 5, right? For me, it would be the PR podcast. It's the thing that I do on the side that sort of gets my juices flowing. And we want to call people out on the great stuff that they're doing in their spare time or on their weekends. Maybe it's something you do in your community. Maybe it's an award you've gotten. Let us know. We like to shout people out here. So send us a DM on Twitter at the PR Podcast, and we will plug your passion project in an upcoming episode. And we're always looking for new guests for our show. So if you want to be featured as a guest, please DM us there on Twitter as well. You know, we describe it this way. You would be a good guest if you have a role in the news-making business, whether you're a PR person like me, whether you are a journalist. We've talked to lots of reporters and journalists on the show, videographers, photographers, people who work in newsrooms, people who run their own blogs and newsletters. You know, again, it's just got to be anybody who has a perspective on how news gets made. We want to hear from you. We want to hear how you do your thing. So send us a DM on Twitter there and book yourself to be a guest on the PR Podcast. Now let's get into this week's guest. He's a great one. Matt Longman is Marketing Communications Manager at Medisafe, where he directs all earned and owned strategy, including using social platforms to expand a company message platform, rebranding to reach both B2B and B2C audiences, and developing a thought leadership campaign that moves from me to we. Matt, welcome to the PR Podcast.
Great to be here. Glad to be with you.
Let's put all this in context. Tell us about Medisafe.
So Medisafe, we are a leading medication engagement platform. And kind of what that means is we are a digital health solution that picks up where most diagnoses drop off. Kind of think about it as if you have your own personal pharmacist right in your pocket. So we help manage that medication journey, whether it's through approvals through your insurance, financial challenges, if there is information about when to take your medication, whether it's with water, food, on an empty stomach, and then the regularity, if you're taking it once a day, twice a day, if you're maybe taking it in combination with other drugs, we manage all of that for the patient. And so we really provide a really integrated and intuitive, personalized experience to help people manage their medications.
So is this app-based? Is it subscription-based?
It is an app-based platform. It's free to patients, so you can download it anywhere in the world. We have over 10 million users across the world that can download it and start using it today. And we work closely with major pharma to make this happen. So helping to connect patients to their treatments. And then from that, we're capturing key insights into the medication journeys. One insight that we find a lot is that for whatever reason, as we lean into the weekend, Fridays, people stop taking their medications. And so having that insight, we can then bolster our communication and say, hey, as a reminder, be sure to take your meds today, and really provide that insight and knowledge back to pharma to help them basically build a better drug in the future.
So that's sounding like you're pushing messages through the app or maybe through email directly to the people who are using it, right?
Correct. Through app, through email, through text messaging. So it's a multi-channel approach to really keep people engaged in their medication journey.
It sounds like a really useful thing to have. I mean, especially if you regularly take medication. In our family, we have a couple people who do regularly take some medications. And I downloaded a free, just one of those basic reminders, right? Like, okay, it's 7:00 in the morning, make sure you take your thing. But this sounds like it's way deeper than that, provides a lot of education as well.
Absolutely. And a lot of times what we have heard is that, we are helping to provide insight into maybe contraindications. So maybe you got a medication from your dentist after some dental work that then, may have a negative impact with, what you're regularly taking. We're going to tell you that, and we're going to alert you to that, as well as then, provide feedback to the physician saying, hey, these won't work together. This could have a serious health impact. You might want to rethink, what you've prescribed here, and really providing greater clarity and transparency into that whole prescribing and medication dosage, not only to the patient, but also back to the prescriber as well.
That's really interesting. So now let's throttle over to the messaging part of this, right? How are you using your PR skills, your communication skills to accomplish the goals you need to accomplish? I totally get the part about messaging to the user of the app. That makes sense. How are you talking to other audiences who may be peripheral to the user, but still need to know about it? Or how are you using PR and communication to expand the awareness of Medisafe?
Sure. So, digital health is a space that has really blown up probably in the last 10 years, and you're hearing about, there's, Google and Amazon and Apple, and they all have their health integrations and things like that. So it's really become a really crowded space. And, there's lots of overlap, and people are wondering, kind of how does this work and what does this do and things like that. So really my role has been all around elevating Medisafe's leadership to show our presence in the space, to show that, there are communities out there of patients that are involved in their own health, and we're tapped into them, and that, we are aware of, kind of what this changing landscape is looking like, where it's driving towards, and how we're involved in each of those. So that's been kind of my key focus of helping to bring that thought leadership awareness into those spaces, and kind of help provide some clarity around the whole area.
Like you said, it's a really crowded space, right? It's a really noisy space, and I'm thinking about earned media when I'm posing this question here. And you've honed in on thought leadership, which is really smart. How receptive have media audiences been to that approach, given that they've probably got 1,000,001 of these types of thought leadership pitches to choose from?
Yeah, I think, they've been receptive, given that we have such a direct insight into patient behavior related to medication use. So, we've done a number of patient surveys around COVID, around, caregivers, around, seasonal flu, and we're able to really capture some key insights around those patient behaviors that media hasn't seen before, that pharma hasn't seen before, that really show how things can really influence a patient's daily lives, and, how medication can really impact those different elements. And so that's been a really key way to insert into that conversation around, this digital health space, that, there are these key insights that can be achieved from operating in digital health.
Are there outlets that are making more sense for your platform when you talk about a thought leadership campaign? Is it the executive publications, or is it the medical publications? What ones are sort of giving you the best feedback?
We're primarily seeing a lot of interest from trade publications. So, things like Modern Healthcare, Fierce Pharma, things like that, that cover the industry more in-depthly. Because of the pandemic, the tier 1 level publications have been covering COVID, kind of nonstop. And so having any kind of breakthrough in those, has required you to either have a COVID specific story, or, be in association with a big player like Amazon or Google or things like that. We've had some success in tying into some of those, those key topics, but really more of the trade publications are able to go a bit deeper into our offering, our skill set, and our AI kind of approach to medication management.
That's really interesting. You're finding there's more exposure and more interest from sort of the B2C market, or how are you managing I'm sorry, the B2B? I always mix them up. Oh, it's the worst. It's the worst. More interest in the B2B market, I guess. How are you making the leap to the B2C? Letting people know that here's this app out there that can help you in your daily life with your medication.
Right. And that's interesting because for the first, I think about 3 years at Medisafe, we were straight B2C. We were really consumer driven. And still that is our primary audience, is that this is really ultimately about helping patients. But then we started to see a greater business model in moving toward B2B, working directly with pharma, their understanding that we have a captive audience and direct insight into those patients where typically pharma hadn't had that before. And so you have grown that business model. And so some of what I'm seeing is more that from a B2B perspective, there are multiple viewpoints from digital health. There is the drug brand manager that's focused on patient access. They want to make sure that enough patients are getting their drug and they're aware of that. And then procurement at pharma is more focused on what is this going to cost, and how are we getting the most cost per patient from an investment in a digital platform. And then CIOs are focused more on what's the next digital innovation. So those messages have to be really specific and aligned to the different audiences, all within the B2B. Whereas, from a B2C perspective, they're wondering just, how does this help me manage my medications? So it's very different from a messaging perspective. And there are many more stakeholders from a B2B that you have to be much more aware of.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear you talk about that, because I have a similar client, and I'll just leave it at that. A similar client with an app, and so we're engaged in that B2C and B2B area. We're really more focused, and they want to be more focused on the B2C side because it's about acquisition, right? Customer acquisition, and exposing it to more people. So we're really trying to focus on the tier one, the mainstream publications, things like that. But we're always cognizant of the value of the B2B side. The fact that, as you said, the trade publications, the ones that are really in the weeds with the product, or should be in the weeds, or can be in the weeds with the product, and how much that can help. So let me ask this question of you. Do you find synergies between the two? If you make headway in the B2B area with trade publications, are you able to kind of translate that, or do you feel that it translates over to the B2C side when you're trying to pitch those stories?
I would say definitely there are similarities. And I always think, and I've been in this industry for a while now, B2B is really B2B to C, because if you're not taking care of the end user, all that B2B up front is gonna, fade away. So you really have to take care of the end user, even if you're thinking about the B2B side. And so, from our perspective, it's, how is this solution going to impact the end user? Are they going to be bombarded with a bunch of pharma messaging, or are they going to just receive really easy, simple instructions that helps them get on with their day? A lot of what we do is, we translate those really complex messaging into, hey, you need a full glass of water with this pill, so make sure and drink up. That's a lot easier than the heavy legalese that pharma is known for. And so really that creates a really engaging patient experience that then people are going to go back to and say, oh, hey, this was really simple and easy. I'm going to tell my friend about it. She's just started, this drug therapy, that kind of thing. And so really it's that understanding of, yes, we have that B2B side, but then what does that translate to the B2C element?
All right, so you're running right into it then. The concept of bringing the customer in, the testimonial or the experiential kind of pitch. Are you able to use those kinds, understanding things like HIPAA and every privacy and everything else? Are you able to leverage those types of stories, and do you do it in a particular way?
that is kind of one of the hallmarks of the Medisafe brand, is that we are first and foremost about the patient. That is our genesis story. Our CEO and founder, he created Medisafe when his father had an accidental overdose on his insulin and realized, wow, there's nothing out here that could prevent this from happening. And so basically he went and said, we got to create something. So it's always been about the patient and their experience. And so, from that, we have a lot of ambassadors that have come and said, Medisafe has saved my life. Medisafe made such a huge impact in how I, manage my health. I never thought this was possible. And so we really empower those people to share their story, share their voice, share their image, and really help tell those stories. And that's been such a powerful tool, especially in media, because it's one thing to hear it from a salesperson or from, thought leadership, but for a person that's actually been impacted to say, you saved my life because you alerted my dentist to this, contraindication, and I would have had a stroke otherwise. Nothing is more powerful than that.
Yeah, that is the holy grail, right? And it's the old joke about PR versus advertising. Advertising is going to a party and telling everybody how great you are. PR is going to a party and listening to everybody else tell everybody how great you are. So your story about the testimonial or the customer impact, the first person story is really, really powerful. I agree with you. Are there challenges to identifying those people though? How do you go about it?
So, there are, certainly because, we deal a lot with protected health information. A lot of what we work with in terms of data is all de-identified. So, we do have to wait until maybe someone reaches out to Medisafe on social media or leaves a positive review in an app store or things like that for us to then engage with them. And, and this is not a hard push. We really just thank someone for being a fan of Medisafe. We offer them the opportunity to leave a comment, leave a review, and really start to build it from there. And really, it all comes down to each person's comfort level. We're talking about things that people have been through, cancer, heart disease, transplants, things like that, very serious health issues. So we really are sensitive to those things and really take it, step by step, person by person, to build those relationships and build it around how comfortable they are. And I think that has also gone a long way in building more ambassadors for us, because they feel like, oh, okay, I'm not out there selling the latest iPhone. This is really truly a company that cares about my health and well-being. They're not trying to, force me into being a talking head for them. And it's really, then people have a sense of trust with us, and we really take that very seriously.
And you've got to be able to use those types of stories really effectively on social, right? I mean, sharing those first person stories, whether it's something that's written or even if you're lucky enough to get a video clip of someone, that's got to be really powerful for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we use those, with very loving care, certainly in conjunction with their approvals, and want to make sure that it fits their view and image of how they want to be portrayed and their story and everything like that. But that has been a huge element to our overall brand and our social image out there, that has helped to build us to where we are with 10 million users on our platform.
That's really impressive. How long has Medisafe been around?
So we will celebrate our 10th anniversary coming up this August.
Wow, 10 million in 10 years. That's pretty good.
Yeah, we are thrilled with where we are. We have grown, we've doubled our size and our profit year over year since inception. And so we are, really excited about what the future holds and expansion of our platform. We are moving into things like, clinical testing and software as a medical device, working with a lot of health systems. So we've really expanded our capabilities to grow even further and help enable providers and health systems understand how they can provide more of an influence into the patient journey. Because I and a lot of what we hear from patients is, I get diagnosed, I get handed a prescription, and then what? I'm left with tons of questions. I don't know what to do. And so we really feel like we have the opportunity to bridge that gap in that space and say, okay, yeah, now that you've been diagnosed and this is your medication, we're going to be with you step by step the entire way through. However long that journey is, we're here with you every step of the way.
That's great. Are there any, looking forward maybe in your messaging journey, with all the success that you've had, is there a next step? Is there a next challenge? Is there a next thing that you want to accomplish from a messaging perspective? And how do you think you're going to go about that? We can also crowdsource some ideas here too. So,
well, one of the key things is around greater interoperability, so having our platform connect very easily and seamlessly with electronic health records, and having that plug in so that then we have a provider that as soon as they prescribe, a drug for high cholesterol, that patient's going to get an immediate invite into Medisafe to download us and to start their journey before they even leave the waiting room. That kind of interaction is where we want to take things. And that also then, if you are having a medical issue, that you can log on to Medisafe, see a provider directly from our platform through some sort of telehealth connection, and that then you are immediately being monitored through the platform for, some serious health issue. And so that's really where we want to take this, is to that next expansive digital health connection. We've even been in discussion with Amazon to talk about how can your Echo device provide a reminder or an update around medical health things that are being tracked within Medisafe. And so having that full connectivity and capability is where we see things going next.
Yeah, really, really interesting topic here, and it goes. It takes messaging to a different area than we typically talk about on the show, which is why I wanted to have you on. Usually we're talking about press releases and pitches and talking with reporters and stuff, but I thought it would be really interesting for us, and I'm glad you shared these stories about, how messaging can really be one-to-one. It really can be personal, and the examples you've given are really terrific ones. Well, I wish you a lot of luck with this, Matt, and thanks for being on the show. We are going to segue now into the rapid fire question portion of our podcast today. This is where we steal a page from inside the actor's studio and ask our guests a series of rapid fire questions meant to elicit a simple answer, maybe a laugh or two. So with your indulgence, here we go. Rapid fire question number 1. What is your favorite news source?
I'm going to go with ABC News, but I have to say my cousin James Longman is a contributor for ABC News, so I got the plug in.
Shout out! All right, very good. Rapid fire question number 2: what is your favorite social media platform?
Twitter. I have built a lot of great media relationships with Twitter, and that's my go-to.
Fantastic. Rapid fire question number 3: coffee or alcohol?
Coffee. I love my coffee subscription service.
Oh, very good. All right. Got the subscription down. How do you take the coffee?
Cream and sugar.
Nice. Very good. Rapid fire question number 4: what is your favorite on the run food? Now you're in the Southwest, so it's got to be something very cool out there.
I wish I could say there was, but my go-to is donuts. I guess I was a cop in a previous life. I love donuts.
Nice. Rapid fire question number 5: what do you want to be after you finish this career?
I love writing. So I have to write every day. So I guess maybe a blogger.
All right. Well, Matt, this has been a great conversation. Thanks for playing our game too. Please let people know how they can find you and Medisafe online.
Yeah, you can easily find me and Medisafe both at the same site at www.medisafe, that's MEDISAFE.com.
All right, Matt, thank you again. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Please remember to subscribe to the show, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at the PR Podcast, and send us a question or a comment. Our intro is by Christopher Apple. You can find him and his fantastic photography on Instagram at Christopher_APPOLDT. Check him out there and hire him for all your photography needs. You can find me online at Jody Fisher on all the socials and on the web at jodyfisherpr.com. We'll see you next time on the PR Podcast.